Hello and welcome. My name is Marva Ward. I'm the National Product Educator for the Now brand in Canada. And today I'm going to be talking to you about stevia and natural sweeteners, and absolutely specific to the Now brand. Sugar has a profoundly interesting and long historical timeline. Sugarcane's domestic origins date back 10,000 years. First discovered in New Guinea, by 1000 BC it had reached the Asian countries, and by 600 AD it had reached Persia. By the 14th century, in Europe, where England and France were cultivating the crops, it was a very prosperous life for them there. However, the sugar plantations were built out of the exploitation of tropical islands. They would take over particular islands, devastate the native sons and daughters and their culture, and replaced it with sugarcane crops, producing houses and hundreds and thousands of African slaves. So not a very pleasant history, or certainly not a very good history to be proud of, that is for sure. The sugar industry in the 20th and 21st century is thriving. Prosperous industry with record-breaking profits. In around the mid-70s, the war on fat started to remove all fat from everything, from all processed foods, but they had to add something. High fructose corn syrup was created. It's glucose and fructose. It's much sweeter, profoundly inexpensive compared to cane sugar, and of course, as I say, much sweeter. So with this war on fat in the 70s, they added high fructose corn syrup while removing the fat, increasing the consumption of high fructose corn syrup in 76 to 1999, 1,000%. Method of metabolism is said to be the catalyst for many 21st century diseases in North America: heart disease, diabetes, obesity, inflammation, Alzheimer's. I wish we had time to talk about it, because I think that there's some really important information that can be realized from this, but unfortunately I have so much to talk about today that perhaps I can save it for another presentation. Canadians' addiction to sugar is profound. The consumption statistics: average daily consumption per capita is approximately 26 teaspoons daily, or 40 kilograms a year per person. And again, statistics fluctuate based on age groups. I don't think it's any surprise that preteens and up to 13 years old are the highest consumers, or are the consumers of the largest amount of sugar. Males 56 kilograms, females 47 kilograms per year. And as you can see, 14 to 18, it lowers a little bit, but as we get into our adult years, it lowers quite a bit, but still very high amounts. We're hardwired for sweets, and this is something that many articles and studies have been done. Sugar, fat, and salt, really the basic drivers for survival. And manufacturers know this. It's also the basic drivers for cravings. High-calorie food sources stimulate dopamine production. Sucralose and high fructose corn syrup, regular consumption is said to result in a state of dependency, and they say that withdrawals from sugar and high fructose corn syrup can be similar to the withdrawals from drug addiction. Think how hard it is to not have sweets for some of us. Very difficult for us to go a day without sweets, a commercial type of a sweet of some kind or another. The health consequences, again, profound. I was just reading something that was speaking to the result of heart disease specific to sugar consumption. And that if you're taking 20% or more of your calorie intake of, 20% of your caloric intake on a daily basis is based of some kind of sugar, that your risk of developing heart disease doubles. So, as far as obesity is concerned, between 1985 and 2005, the obesity rate amongst adults more than tripled. And isn't it interesting to note that really the correlation between the addition of high fructose corn syrup very well could have been part of the catalyst for this. And by 2019, overweight and obese adults will outnumber the normal weights in half of the Canadian provinces. These are statistics that they're looking at. Childhood obesity is skyrocketing, and it's seen in infants as young as 6 months old. That's quite something. So the health consequences ultimately, prediabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome or syndrome X, this has a lot to do with multiple different issues: blood pressure, high cholesterol, waist circumference. The apple shape of the body is something you don't want. Increased blood sugar issues and insulin resistance. So the search for a sweet and safe alternative has been ongoing for decades and decades. In the mid-50s, sugar alternatives in the form of chemical sweet substitutes were discovered, and many of them were discovered completely by accident in the lab. Saccharin, 1950s, 300 to 500 times sweeter than sugar, it was banned and is currently banned in Canada since the late 60s due to studies that show that it's possible carcinogenic effect on the human body. Cyclamates in the 1950s were discovered, 30 to 50 times sweeter than sugar, banned in the US in the late 60s but still used in Canada, Sweet and Low, and in Sugar Twin. Aspartame in the 1960s said to be 200 times sweeter than sugar. This company is now owned by Monsanto. And sucralose, 1998, chlorinated sugar, 600 times sweeter. Unlike aspartame, it's stable when heated and can be used in baking and in fried goods. And it ultimately is. But the search continues because negative health effects from the use of these chemical sweeteners is becoming more and more understood. And so ultimately entering the natural sugar alternatives, sugar alcohols, and stevia. The return to natural sugar sources from the past that we have used: date sugars, demerara, suca nuts, maple syrups, and honey, and pure cane sugar. The discovery of sugar alcohols like xylitol, sorbitol, and erythritol. Plant-based natural sweeteners like stevia. And that's what I'll speak about a lot today. Stevia rabananon is an herb native to South America, and it has been used for centuries. It was discovered and brought to North America by a scientist, M.S. Bertoni, in 1887. 1931, two French chemists successfully extracted the crystalline compounds from the stevia leaves, later to be named steviosides. Stevia sweetness is a result of complex glycoside molecules called steviosides, and they're composed of glucose, sucrose, and steviols. Stevia extract can be 300 times sweeter than sugar, having little or no caloric value, and it's typically about 60 to 100 times sweeter in a commercial venue. Stevia is 0 on the glycemic index, and in its raw state, the plant contains over 100 phytonutrients. There's been a number of studies that show stevia's effect on insulin sensitivity. And I've given you an example here from Chang Wu Liu and Cheng in 2005, and also the beneficial effects on blood glucose and insulin levels in human studies, that it may play a role in food intake regulation. And in safety studies, there's been no negative effects reported on its safety. And again, giving you numerous studies that you certainly can take a look at yourself if you're interested in taking getting deeper insights on these studies. There's also been a lot of talk about using a sweetener, any type of a sweetener, and how it has its effect on making you feel more hungry. Well, studies examined how stevia intake affected satiety and also blood glucose and insulin levels. And so the individuals in the study, preloads containing stevia on food intake, satiety, and postprandial glucose and insulin levels. So after they had eaten, their glucose and insulin levels in both lean and obese individuals. They also used aspartame and sucrose as well in some individuals to really indicate whether their appetites would be increased, because there's been a lot of talk about how aspartame and your chemical sweeteners would increase your appetite. Well, ultimately the results were quite interesting, because the key findings found that the participants did not compensate by eating more, either in their lunch or their dinner meals, when they consumed lower calorie preloads containing stevia. The blood glucose stevia preloads significantly reduced after meal glucose levels compared to the sucrose preloads, and the postprandial insulin levels compared to both aspartame and sucrose preloads were much lower with stevia. Now, better stevia. Really, from seed to finished product, our hands are on our products. We have our own crops, and we are from the very beginning of the agricultural aspect to the manufacturing of our stevia, we are in complete control. Our stevia, we call it a better stevia because it's a whole leaf stevia. Many stevias on the market are rhabdoxide A, one component of stevia, where we have all of the steviol glycosides that are extracted from the whole leaf of the stevia plant, incorporating all steviol glycosides that provide the sweetness compound of the stevia leaf. Now Foods employs a patented extraction process as well. We use water, alcohol, and a vegetarian enzyme, glucosyl transferase, that reduce the licorice aftertaste typically found in a stevia extract. So this again results in better stevia. So we're using all of the steviosides and the rhabdoxide from the plant, but we're also treating it with a vegetarian sourced enzyme that lowers the licorice aftertaste. This enzymatic treatment, glycosylation of stevia extract using the glucotransferase enzyme that I spoke about, as well and a glucose source. It produces a range of naturally occurring steviosides and additional glycosylated steviosides that really enhance the taste. A very, very basic pictorial: the rhabdoxide A with the glucose and the enzyme, resulting in the monoglucoside rhabdoxide A. The simplified flow chart, again, the dried stevia leaves, stevia solution, filtration and purification, concentration stevia extract, up to the glycosylation, and the filtration, the concentration of enzyme-treated stevia extract, and ultimately the stevia-treated, the enzyme-treated stevia. What does this result in? A no bitter aftertaste, full spectrum natural herbal sweetener, low carbohydrate, calorie free, low glycemic impact, sustainably grown, certified organic varieties, non-GMO, and gluten free. Here's the vast list. I think we have over 26 different SKUs of stevia offerings for the retailer and then ultimately the consumer. Our Better Stevia Organic Stevia is certified organic, non-GMO, project certified, 0 calorie, low glycemic or no glycemic, certified organic sweeteners, and I've given you the list as well. Stevia balanced with inulin and chromium. Adding the inulin and chromium, it helps with blood sugar maintenance. Inulin increases calcium and magnesium absorption. It promotes the growth of good intestinal bacteria, works as a prebiotic, and it has a naturally sweet flavor in the form of a soluble fiber. Chromium, a trace mineral, and our chromium is sourced through Albion Labs. It's known to enhance the action of insulin. Makes us less insulin resistant, makes us far more receptive to the insulin, bringing insulin into the cells. Our Now Better Stevia packs, 0 calorie, of course, low glycemic, natural sweetener, powdered. Our Now Stevia packets, giving you again your options. Our liquid stevia, numerous options for liquid. We have alcohol and glycerin-based options, liquid formats, 0 calories. We've improved our cap as well, easier to use, less opportunity for breakage and spillage as well. Our liquid flavors, authentic, really authentic taste, because they all come from natural, they're all natural and 100% pure food grade sources. To give you an example, our stevia liquid extract that's coconut, English toffee, pomegranate and blueberry, tropical fruit, dark chocolate, French vanilla, hazelnut cream, lemon twist, and cinnamon vanilla, all available to you in a liquid format. Stevia versus sugar measurement, and this is using our liquid stevia. And again, just as an interest sake, the granulated artificial sweeteners. But if we look at sugar on the far left-hand side, 2 teaspoons of sugar in a required recipe would be a 1/4 teaspoon of liquid stevia. A 1/4 cup of sugar would be a 1/2 teaspoon of liquid stevia. And it goes on and on. 2 cups of sugar would be 5 1/4 teaspoons of liquid stevia. With baking, where you're going to find some needs to alter the recipe is when you're trying to find a source of bulk because you've lost it when you're using liquid stevia. And we're going to have some solutions for you today as we carry on with this presentation. Again, our natural sweeteners that I'll speak to you about going forward in this presentation: xylitol, erythritol, date sugar, organic sucanut, dextrose, fructose, and lactose. Sugar alcohols, they're naturally occurring, they're derived from sugar, low calorie content, they're not completely absorbed in the human body, and this is why they end up being extremely low on the glycemic index and having a very low calorie content, because we typically don't absorb it like we do with sugar. Also, sugar alcohols are profoundly antibacterial, and study after study shows their effect in using xylitol or sugar alcohols promote healthy teeth and gums because of their antibacterial aspect. Xylitol is often called wood sugar because originally obtained from wood. Birch is a perfect example. It can also be obtained from corn cobs, corn husks, rice, oats, wheat, etc., because it's found in many different foods. The dietary sources that are relatively high in xylitol would be plums, raspberries, and cauliflower. It has the same relative sweetness as sugar. However, it can have a laxative effect because of the way that it's digested. When we take in xylitol, it goes directly to the lower intestine without being absorbed in the small intestine. This is one of the reasons, as I'd mentioned, that it has a lower caloric point. But because it goes directly to the bowel and then is eliminated, it can create a laxative effect for some individuals at certain levels. And it's typically high, more than 30 to 50 grams per day, or typically per day, or per consumption sitting. Now that would be the equivalent of that would be 15 to 20 now xylitol packets, and that's something that typically one would not be eating in a day, certainly, or consuming in a day. It's antibacterial, as mentioned. It inhibits bacterial growth. So our xylitol is derived from non-GMO corn. Again, a third fewer calories, but it is equally as sweet. An excellent alternative to sugar. Fantastic for baking because it's a 1-to-1 ratio in any of your baking recipes. Erythritol is also a naturally occurring sugar alcohol, and it is also derived from corn. It's naturally found in small amounts in various plants and fruits, fungi, and which includes mushrooms. The digestive process is different from other sugar alcohols, so it eliminates this digestive reaction. Certainly, the reaction of possible loose stool. The digestive process it goes directly to the kidneys for excretion and not to the bowel. It contains virtually no calories, 95% less calories than table sugar. It's about 60% as sweet, 60 to 70% as sweet. Tastes like sugar, but yet very low in the glycemic impact. Negative aspects of sugar are absent with erythritol. And as I say, 60 to 70% as sweet as sugar. Erythritol is a perfect opportunity to be able to use stevia, liquid stevia, with erythritol, and to be able to restore the bulk that's needed in a recipe for any type of a baking recipe. Results suggest that erythritol affects glucose metabolism and reduces lipid peroxidation, thereby improving the damage caused by oxidative stress involved in the pathogenesis of diabetes. And this was a study that was done, and I've given you information in the lower part of the slide, and showing that it really helps with oxidative stress and works as an antioxidant, or possibly works as an antioxidant. We have erythritol in both 454 gram and 1134 gram, but we also recently have launched in organic erythritol as well in a 454 gram. Both are derived from non-GMO corn. One is organic and one is not. Again, 70% as sweet as table sugar. Perfect alternative for for table sugar, for baking, and in beverages. Date sugar. This is a raw, unprocessed, finely chopped date. That's typically what this sugar is. Very high in fiber and vitamins and minerals. The sugar content in dates, quite high. It's fructose, glucose, sucrose, and complex carbohydrates. So it is a very high sugar content, but yet you are getting all the vitamins and minerals that you're finding in dates. Very pleasant tasting natural sweetener, and it's excellent for baking, and typically that's how date sugar is used, is in baking situations. Organic sucanut. It's whole cane sugar crystals from pure dried sugar cane. It retains all the properties of natural sugar cane, as well as its molasses content. So ultimately, vitamins, minerals, and molasses are not displaced during the process. It can be used as a one-to-one substitute for table sugar. Fantastic in many different recipes. It has a very unique flavor, yet very, very subtle. And the larger granules might require some experimentation as far as attaining the proper flavor or texture in whatever you're using it for. Dextrose really is another name for glucose. It's a simple sugar that plays an important role in cellular energy. And the reason that this was launched was there were a lot of bodybuilders that were looking for dextrose to be added to their after-workout shakes, again helping the sugar drive the protein into the cells quickly after workout. It's a moderate sweetness, fine texture, and again, as I'd mentioned in this slide, that a very fast energy source for during workouts or replenishing energy post-workout. Used in place of table sugar, it's a 1.3 to 1 ratio. So not quite as sweet as table sugar. Fructose is a pure crystalline fructose. The sweetest of all nutritive sweeteners, 1.2 to 1.75 times sweeter than table sugar. And again, fructose is used in situations perhaps for baking. Often it's used in canning when you're making jams, etc. It does not recrystallize easily once it's incorporated into food, so it's ideal as a sugar substitute in recipes, tending to yield a chewy, softer product, such as in cookies. Lactose. Again, one of the reasons that we launched lactose is people who were making their own baby formulas were using lactose. It's a milk sugar. It's derived from whey, and it's produced by many bacteria, including probiotics. Of course, if you're lactose intolerant, this would not be a sweetener that you would be drawn towards. 20% the sweetness of sugar. Just a reminder about our Now Productology, which is a division of our Now University exclusive to Now retailers. This is a program that incorporates 60-minute training sessions on a variety of different topics, allowing you to become more educated in everything from amino acids to xylitol. It's free to all Now retailers, and at the end of every session, you have the opportunity to print out a certificate of completion if you so choose. To register, on the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see the top URL is where you register, and ongoing access to the courses is the bottom URL. I'd like to thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a pleasant day. Thank you. Bye-bye.